Welcome to the Corporate Real Estate Show, where we don't just talk about property, we explore the past, present, and the future of how real estate is shaping our lives. I'm your host, Sujit, and today marks the beginning of a journey unlike any other. We are going to dwell into the life of how a real estate agent and a real estate company works across multiple facets of life. This podcast isn't any other industry show. It's a story that starts with the origin of civilization, moves through the industrial age, and brings us to today's thriving corporate real estate landscape. To understand where real estate is heading and what opportunities lie ahead of us, we need to explore where it all began.
This show is all about unveiling the bigger picture. To truly grasp the complexities of corporate real estate today, we need to explore the long journey humanity has taken, from the first human settlements and communities to urbanization and to the corporate hubs and infrastructure that now drive the global economy. Every episode of this podcast will feel like turning a page in a grand story, one that ultimately connects the dots between ancient civilizations and the corporate real estate opportunities of today and tomorrow. In today's episode, we'll start with the basics, the very beginning of human development. We'll talk about how early settlements grew into civilizations and how those civilizations laid the groundwork for the real estate and corporate hubs of the modern world. But this is just the first step. Over the course of this series, we'll continue to reveal the story of how real estate has evolved and where it's headed next.
Urbanization laid the foundation for human progress. It allowed humans to gather, build communities, and eventually settle into towns. These small settlements are the first real examples of humans building infrastructure.
As people began settling, they needed to develop new tools and technologies to support larger communities. This shift is what led to the development of agriculture, which in turn led to the creation of permanent settlements. The invention of the plow and irrigation systems laid the foundation of the world's first cities.
These early cities were the place where real estate actually started finding its value in the human evolution. Land became important for its strategic location, its resources, and its ability to produce goods. This is the foundation to early corporate real estate structures, focused on access to resources and trade routes.
As civilizations grew, the need for large-scale infrastructure became critical. Empires such as the Egyptians and the Mesopotamians built monumental structures, which were not only symbols of power, but also tools for economic growth. Real estate in these empires included temples, palaces, and marketplaces.
This period also marked the beginning of organized real estate. Land within the city walls became valuable for commerce, military, strategy, and political power. For example, the Roman Empire, under leaders like Julius Caesar, Rome expanded through a deliberate strategy of land acquisition and infrastructure development. The famous Roman roads, aqueducts, and ports allowed them to control trade, military movement, and ultimately economic growth.
The infrastructure of Rome wasn't just functional, it was essential for economic prosperity. These advances in real estate and infrastructure helped the Romans become one of the most powerful empires in the history. Land became not just a resource, but a source of wealth and influence, establishing early principles of how land and property contribute to economic power.
The Industrial Revolution in the 18th and the 19th century was one of the most pivotal moments in human history and the formation of corporate real estate structures. Leaders like James Watt, who perfected the steam engine, and Henry Ford, who revolutionized mass production of automobiles, didn't just advance technology. They transformed the real estate landscape to suit factories powered by steam engines, turned cities into industrial powerhouses, This era gave rise to a new kind of real estate development: industrial districts, commercial centers, and dense urban areas.
Industrialization reshaped the cities like Manchester, London, and New York. Factories required vast amounts of land, and soon we saw cities growing vertically with multi-story buildings to accommodate both workforce and industry. Real estate development was no longer about owning land, but creating spaces that could drive productivity and economic growth.
The introduction of railroads, pioneered by leaders like George Stephenson, connected industrial cities, further revolutionizing the transformation of corporate real estate. Land near these railroads became prime real estate property due to their access with factories, warehouses, and commercial spaces. This era also marked the rise of corporate real estate as companies and large factories required office spaces as well as industrial spaces to operate and develop efficiently.
The 20th century ushered in an era of real estate booms. With World War II over, nations began rebuilding, and real estate became a key driver for economic recovery. In cities like New York, leaders like William Barron Jenney, who designed the first skyscrapers, revolutionized urban real estate. Post-war economic growth led to the expansion of suburbs, office complexes, and shopping centers.
The post-war era also gave rise to corporate real estate giants. Companies like Standard Oil under John D. Rockefeller created large corporate campuses. The rise of multinational corporations fueled the demand for office towers and corporate headquarters, turning cities into business hubs. The growth of corporate real estate paralleled the expansion of global economy.
Real estate development became more specialized during this period, with the rise of industrial parks, logistics hubs, and financial districts. The construction of corporate skyscrapers, shopping malls, and suburban homes reflected the changing dynamics of economy. Real estate was no longer about just owning land. It was about creating spaces for economic activity and driving value creation.
And now let's turn our attention to the United Arab Emirates, one of the most incredible transformations of modern history. In the 1950s, the discovery of oil marked a turning point for the country. But it wasn't just oil that fueled UAE's rise. Visionary leaders like Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, the founding father of the United Arab Emirates, and Sheikh Rashid bin Zayed Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai, laid the groundwork for what would become the global real estate hub of the 20th century.
Sheikh Zayed understood that oil wealth alone wouldn't be enough for sustainable growth. He invested heavily in infrastructure, roads, airports, and seaports to turn the UAE into a center of trade and commerce. Sheikh Rashid had a similar vision for Dubai, focusing on developing Jebel Ali port and the world-class infrastructure that would attract global corporations.
Jebel Ali Port, now one of the busiest in the world, was instrumental in attracting foreign direct investments. Companies like Emirates Airlines, founded in 1985, turned Dubai into a global aviation hub. The rise of corporate real estate in the United Arab Emirates is a direct result of strategic planning by these visionary leaders, positioning the country at the center for business, trade, and investment.
As we conclude today's episode, it is clear that real estate is much more than just land. It's a driver of economic growth, a reflection of societal progress, and a foundation of future innovation. From the ancient empires to the Industrial Revolution and now to the UAE, the evolution of real estate has always been tied to human advancement.
In our next episodes, we will dive deeper into the transformation of corporate real estate for global cities who have actually been the torchbearer for corporate real estate. We will highlight the key investments and the visionary leadership that made it possible for these cities to actually grow into corporate real estate hubs. Stay with us as we continue to unravel the story of corporate real estate, past, present, and future. Thank you very much.
So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on this episode, and do let us know your feedback on these episodes. Thank you.